Okay, hi, welcome to yet another deck profile. So this is going to be on my Sacred Beast deck, because they got some support recently, and I thought I might as well just try out a build. It's not very competitive at all, but you know, it's a fun deck to play with. So yeah, we'll get straight into it. So for the Sacred Beast portion, I'm running 2 Harmon and then 1 Morvael and 1 Uriah, just because you don't want to have too many of these because you end up withdrawing them, then they're basically just like dead in your hand because they don't do much. Hamon, if he's on the field and he destroys a monster by battle, then you get to deal 1,000 to your opponent. And then if he's in defense position, he's the only monster your opponent can attack. So he's pretty much he's the main card that you want to go to, summon him in defense, so that he can basically protect you from your opponent's attacks. The Raphael, anytime your opponent summons a monster or monsters, you get to summon a token. And then you contribute a monster, and then he gains attack equal to that monster's attack. So you could tribute off like Hamon, for instance, and he gains double his attack. And then Uriah, he's on the field, he gains 1,000 attack for each continuous trap in your grave, and then you can destroy a face-down spell or trap card, and your opponent can't activate any spell or traps in response to it. So you know you can hit a Solemn Strike or a Forbidden Chalice or whatever, and they can't activate it. So yeah, that's pretty much the only ones that I run in the deck. And then the way you summon them is with the first of the 2 support cards. So you have the 3 Dark Summoning Beast. What he does, you tribute him to special summon any one of these from your hand or deck with ignoring their summoning conditions, because ordinarily you have to summon him by sending 3 continuous spell cards on your field to the grave. Uriah will be continuous traps, and for Raphael will be 3 Fiends, which isn't really too bad for him because he can be summoned out a lot easier, but he gets over the conditions. And then if he's in your graveyard, you can banish him in order to search out any one of them, so you can pretty much just thin out your deck. Which you can summon them from the graveyard as well, but you know, kind of everything with it. It's annoying about the fact that he's level 5, so you have ways in which you need to summon him easier. So the main way I like to do is go with the 3 Stygain Street Patrol, have him in your graveyard, and then you banish him, and you can special summon any fiend from your hand which has 2,000 or less attack. So primarily you want to go for Beast, but you can also summon another copy of him, or another card which we'll get to in a second. So he also has another effect where if you destroy this monster in battle, then you get to deal 200 damage, no, 100 damage for each of their levels, but you don't really use that effect. And then to get him into the graveyard, I have the 3 Armageddon Knight, just Foolish Burial as any dark monster, but you could also do Beast for certain other plays. And then I have 2 Summoner Monk. You just discard a spell, summon any level 4 monster from your deck, so basically Knight, Foolish Burial, the Stygain. He doesn't really need to be at 2 anymore, I think he's not as broken as he once was. And then the 2 Phantom of Chaos, like I said, basically you can use the Knight to send one of your beasts to the graveyard if you have one of these in hand, and he's also a target for Street Patrol if it needs be. You can just special summon him, he copies effects and all of that. And then just because of the fact that I have, just because I like to use this for rank 4 plays mainly, I have 1 Zephyros the Elite, but he's not really necessary for the deck. And then finally 1 Maxi, because the main problem with this deck is the fact that if you don't get your key card straight away, then you have very dead hands. So I just had this in for extra drawability. I wish it was still at 2, but you know, Konami doesn't really like us. So that's it for the monsters. And then for the spells, the other support card that Sacred Beasts has is 3 Fallen Paradise. Basically, if you control any of your Sacred Beasts and they become Magic Spectres, so they can't be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's effects, but they can still be like tributed from Kaijus and stuff, which is kind of annoying. And then if you control any of them or their fusion, Artemile, the Chaos Phantom, then you get to draw 2 cards. So that pot of greed effect is always a good thing. And since it's so important, we run the 3 Terraforming to try and search it out. So yeah, that's pretty much those bits. 2 Transmodify, because we have Fiends in here. We can use this to so its effect is you send a face-up monster to your graveyard, and then you special summon a monster of the same type and attribute from your deck, but 1 level higher. So you know, you have your Chaos Phantoms, for instance, or your Stygain, and then you basically just tribute it off and special summon this guy from the deck. So you don't have any problems there. And to compensate with the rest of the draw power, we have the triple Allure of Darkness and the Upstart Goblin, because you really do need it in order to get your keycards quicker. And then for additional stuff, 2 MST and a Galaxy Cyclone. This is originally 2 Twin Twisters and an MST, but at the time when I was making this, they didn't spring out the structure decks for Dino Meshes, I think it's called. The Dino Rampage, whichever one it is that has the new dinosaur support. I can get those cheaper now, but this is an okay ratio. And then finally 1 Foolish Burial, because again, we need stuff in the graveyard. And then that does for the spells. And then we have a few traps in here. The main one which I have for stalling out when you can get your cards is the Spiritual Source Revealing Light. So you pay 1,000 to negate any one attack, and if it's in your graveyard you can banish it and your opponent can't attack you directly for the rest of the turn. So pretty useful for stalling and all of that. And then 2 Call of the Haunted, just to summon monsters back, and then you have enough of these continued traps on the field, you can obviously summon Uriah with them. And then finally for the main deck we're on the one Solemn Morning, because it is just Solemn Morning. And I do like it. And then that does it for the main deck. So then moving on to the side deck. It's not complete, but I can tell you about the suggestions which I have. So I run 2 Jinzo to go against Paleozoics. Triple Debunk, mainly for stuff like King of the Skull Servant decks, because it negates effects and then banishes monsters from your opponent's hand or graveyard. And it's useful against stuff like Fairy Tale Snow, which can activate multiple times in the same turn. I was meant to get 2 of these, but for some reason I only got 1. Summon Limit, basically just it slows down Zodiacs like crazy. They only get that 1 summon, so if they basically run the Speedroid engine, then they get their 2 special summons off and they can't do anything else. And then I also have 2 Light Imprisoning because you got ABCs coming out and all of that sort of stuff, so... Well, they're already out, but you know what I mean. And then also, I want to run cards like Denko Sekka in this to basically shut down any sort of heavy floodgate decks and things like that. So, yeah. And then we have an extra deck here, but you don't always really need to go into it. It's only if you're kind of dealing with a slow play. So it's just a few different general rank 4s. We've got Castell, because it's Castell. 101, similar effect. Number 98, just because I have it. Key Beetle, which is I actually like to go into because it protects your Fallen Paradise from destruction. Heartland Draco, because you can protect yourself in second effect. Cowboy, because I always like to make a game. And then I got 2 copies of this latest card, which I found useful. The Malevolent Sin. What this does is, if you actually zoom in, come on, focus. Come on, focus. Okay, it's not wanting to work with me here. Basically, the effect is that you can detach a material from it to banish a monster your opponent controls until their next standby phase, and then if he attacks, then he gains 300 attack at the end of the damage step and 3 rank increases, which is useful for a player with a particular card which I'll get to in a second. And then for level 5s, even though we already go into them, Vulpasaurus and Artifact Durandal. Yes, this is a German version. I ended up messing up the order a little bit. And then Frank 10s, which we have the options for. We have number 32. Dora, sorry, that's 81, and then Gustav Max, because just being able to attack and then just do 2k to the face is always useful, and Ravenous Tarantula. And then when you have the either this or the rank 10 Malevolent Sin, then you can also go to the place of Pain Gainer and then 7 Sins. And then that does it for the deck. Like I said, it's not very competitive, this deck at all, but I do like to play it just for the sake of the fun of it, because I do like Sacred Beasts, and I want to see if they could be a bit more competitive. Maybe after that we might see some support for the Egyptian gods and everything. But yeah, so that's it for this deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I shall catch you next time for whatever I do next. So long, take care.